Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Joe Martin Show. Today I'm here with Orion. So can you give yourself an introduction?
Yes. My name is Orion Rains. I'm a drummer that has played in numerous projects from Urama, Sycamore, um, Error back in the day, other and whatnot. And yeah,
Damn, you have a lot of experience.
a little bit. I don't really think I have a lot. It's more in the sense of like people will ask me and they're like, "Hey, man, I really need a drummer. I need someone to learn these many songs
Mhm.
in a month." And I'm like, uh, sure, I'll
Yeah.
do it. And I've had the, I'm very grateful for the opportunity for like certain, like a lot of bands, especially like one of my favorites that I've ever worked with was Urama when Amauti asked me to play with him for Grassfed. Uh, Pretty much he posted on his story. I guess it was right place, right time. He's like, "Hey, who's a good drummer down here in the valley?" And I was like,
Hmm.
"Me." And
Like, go for it.
yeah, I had been a fan of Urama since, man, seeing them play house shows to like 15, 20 people.
Mhm.
So I they were probably one of the first bands that I ever got to see live, like from the music scene, and I was just completely blown away. And this was around like when that first EP Hurt came out,
Yeah.
when Brendan and Koladi were still in the band. So I was looking up to Brendan a lot. He's probably one of the craziest drummers I've ever seen down here. That guy is can't be touched. He's on another level at this point. But him and also Isaiah Flowers. I remember being in high school. He graduated from the same high school as I did.
Yeah.
So like it was like the not like the legacy, but like the kids around school, they'd be like, "Yeah, the Kalos concert going on at Cine El Rey. Oh, did you hear about it? Sold out, blah, blah, blah." So I was like, man, this guy's really cool. I would love to work with him one day. And then I guess the time came, like I said, the right place, right time. And he was like, "Hey, I need a drummer." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm a drummer.
I'm a drummer. Let's just
Yeah.
work something out.
Let's do something. Let's figure something out." And so I had a lot of fun with those people. Overall, I just really like learning new stuff. Oh,
Oh, your cat.
here he's very friendly. But yeah, just overall, I just really like learning new things and collaborating with people, especially if it's someone where I really like the music a lot. So yeah, I'm very grateful for opportunities like that.
Yeah. I was curious, like, what was your introduction to the music scene? Because, like, for me, I came very late to the game. Like, it was this year, and I've been only doing the podcast for like 4 or 5 months. So, like, I'm completely new to like the scene. So, me, it's just like figuring out, okay, who knows who. Like, it's just kind of, I know it's kind of weird, but like, what was your introduction to like the music scene?
So my mom, my dad, and my cousin. My mom and dad have been around since the Trenton Point days. So like the punk scene, like in the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
They grew up in that area. So once they had me, there was a short time where obviously they were raising me and being parents.
Of course. Yeah.
But as I got a little bit older, they re-entered the scene, and pretty much it was in the metal scene. So I grew up like hearing about bands like Dog Mahalo, Wraith, Behold the Executioner, which my cousin Joshua Lopez from Widowmaker Studios, he played in Dog Mahalo. He played with Behold the Executioner. He was really making a name for himself down here in the valley. So I already knew there was a pretty like
Like
niche scene.
there's a family history to it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, it's cool.
So when my friends in high school around my sophomore year, they were like, "Hey, we're starting a band and we need a drummer." And I was like, "I haven't played drums in 2-3 years, but sure."
Yeah.
And I told my dad. My dad, being my dad, was like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
my son's gonna be in a band." So he like helped me out, and like we put together this old drum set I had, and I fully invested my time with that old band. And then pretty soon after that, we joined the scene. It was like maybe 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
With my first band, Error. It was around the same time Leo and Carlos from Disease Freak, they started Sauce House. I got to meet those guys around like TV Flash days. Pretty much I think they entered the scene, and then 2 months later we entered the scene. And we really got paired a lot together as like the young cats, like the next generation of the Valley music scene. So it was very cool, and I became very close with all those guys. And to this day, I mean, we're still very good friends. So that, I guess you could say that was my introduction into the scene. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, one thing like I've been told was like there's been like different waves of bands and all stuff throughout the Valley. What has been the difference between like pre-pandemic and like post-pandemic? Like what differences have you seen in the music scene?
So pre-pandemic, I think we were actually talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, it was kind of it was like I actually got told this by someone else from down here in the scene that has been here for a while, but he says there's like spikes in the scene where like the scene will get super popular. Any show that, no matter what the show, no matter what the band is, a lot of people will come.
Yeah.
But then there's times where the scene's really dead, where there's like probably tops like 10 bands playing and 25 to 50 people came. So pre-pandemic, that was probably around when the scene was kind of dead. Every once in a while there'd be a really big show, but it would have to involve like a bigger touring band coming down from the Valley. That Tiger's Blood usually was the person that booked. So that was really cool. But right now I feel like we're going through a really big spike.
It seems to be really active.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, anytime Tiger's Blood books an out-of-town touring band, a big act, that show almost sells out in an instant. But at the same time, is like you could see a bill of like all local bands. That will almost sell out, or it will be like a DIY show with like 200, 300 people in a backyard.
Yeah.
Which that usually is the best shows ever because of the energy the crowd gives, and the band will feed off that energy and give it straight back. So it's really cool. I guess you could say that's the big difference. And although I've talked about this with a couple other people, is I feel like the main problem that we're having, which is why we're having so many of these like pop-ups, these DIY house shows, is the lack of venues.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
Especially like
because didn't one of them close recently? Yerberia or whatever?
Yerberia Cultura. Actually, let's see. I found like their listing for it, and I got to see pictures of like Yerb, like, because so what happened was. Like the whole story behind it is like the liquor license was about to expire, but the guys were too focused on something else. So they were like, you know what? The pandemic really messed them up, and they were like, we didn't see a purpose in continuing it. So when they pretty much they let it expire, they let it go, stop paying the like lease, I guess you could say, on it.
Yeah.
And so they got bought out by like one of those like haunted house places that they have on like,
like
downtown.
My God. Yeah.
And they gutted everything. They gutted everything, and they painted over all the stickers, all the artwork that all the artists did there. It was so heartbreaking to see. Like you could see like some leftover stickers on like one of the poles on like the middle on the inside stage, but there's no stage anymore. The bars are gone. So like my first shows ever in the scene were at Yerb, and obviously the aesthetic of Yerb and everything, like seeing all that there, like the decorations and everything, and seeing them gone or painted over was so heartbreaking to see. So yeah, they pretty much closed like due to the pandemic, and it was just a big hit to the scene. And ever since then, I feel like we haven't really recovered from that or found a new
venue.
Yeah. I mean, I think the closest would probably be the Gremlin, but even then, it's. I guess no one can really ever match that same vibe that you're brought.
Yeah, and it sucks because like I always see all these pictures on Instagram, like during the pandemic, like oh wow, like I want to check out this place and
never got to
check it out on cam.
I mean, my first ever show down here in the scene, like was at Yerb. It was actually my cousin's that flyer up there, the Showcase 2017.
Yeah,
that was my first show in the local scene. And my first band I ever got to see was Dithala. To this day, I will say they are one of the best like hardcore bands that ever come out of the Valley. I was completely blown
Do they
away.
still have like music out there or no?
They have some of their stuff on YouTube. I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
They featured on some like metalcore like
Oh, wow.
like channels and stuff like that. I know the guitarist went on and started a solid grind with the drummer,
Mhm.
and then the bassist Joseph Bakri, he went on. He's now a rapper.
Oh wow, that's
He's
interesting.
dude. It's really good. Like
Yeah.
genuinely really good. Like I was very surprised too, because like going from like hardcore
Chord-
like halftime breakdowns to rapping, I was like, I see it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not surprised. Like it just proves like his talent and his skill, not like as a musician. And I mean, he's playing pretty big shows. Like he played Spring Break at Clayton's.
Oh, for reals?
Yeah, and he's played. I think I'm trying to remember. I could be wrong. He's played some pretty big shows down here, and he's starting to make like a name for himself in the underground rap scene, like in the U.S. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see. But yeah, I kind of went off topic there. My bad.
Yeah, we're talking about like the venues that there's like a venues basically.
Oh yeah. So pretty much like Yerb was like the main place that I saw my first
Yeah.
shows. Yerb and the Hop Shop. In
Yeah,
Arlington.
yeah.
Luckily, the Hop Shop's still around.
Mhm.
I love the Hop Shop. But yeah, so
Yeah, because basically the ones who have been picking up the slack is basically the DIY venues. I mean, that's,
yeah. Bummer Shed, Sauce House, and shout out to those two.
Is there any other?
venues.
Because they're the only ones I'm aware of right now.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, those are the
The
only
main
two.
ones, yeah.
Even then, I know like Bummer Shed, they're starting to slow down a little bit. Although they have like seasons. I noticed that
Yeah.
they do, which I think is really cool. Like it's a really cool thing. And then obviously Sauce House, Leo and Carlos are like workhorses when it comes to that type of stuff. They're always trying to innovate and do something groundbreaking for the scene. So it's always very cool to see every single new flyer or new like
New
thing
show,
that they're
yeah.
adding to their events and stuff like that. Especially being in a garage,
Yeah,
it's
well,
really cool.
yeah, it's cool.
really like very odd, but at the same time, it's so cool to see. So I mean, yeah. So
And what I found interesting about it is that Bummer Shed and Sauce House are in a very like similar like position where like they're like in the rural area of the city, and it's like it almost looks the same like in terms of like the backyard and all stuff. I don't know, it's interesting.
I mean, it's the best place to throw it because I mean, you're very like all the houses are pretty far away as
Yeah.
compared to like let's say throwing a house show in McAllen,
Yeah.
where all it's like suburbs and whatnot.
You get a
So,
bunch of noise complaints.
yeah, like I remember Sycamore used to practice here, and 10 minutes into the practice, get the cops called,
Oh man.
and it got real bad. I was having to look up city ordinances because we were practicing at like 2:00 in the afternoon and in a garage.
Yeah,
like
it shouldn't be
hot
that bad.
garage. I remember the cops would come and we'd open the garage because we would have closed it and everything. We'd open the garage. I had the whole band would have no shirt, dripping with sweat, and the cop would be like, "Hey, I'm sorry guys, but y'all gotta stop." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What? Like, is there anything like we could do? Like we just want to play. We just want to practice. Like we could be off doing like." Causing trouble like around, but instead we want to do something positive by playing our music. And I mean, we're torturing ourselves pretty much. I was like, we're on the verge of like heat stroke. like there's no way like we can figure something out. And they were like, I'm sorry, but no. Like a while back, I think it was around like right before the pandemic, they changed the city ordinances. Pretty much it went from like a certain noise disturbance was like fine as long as it wasn't past like 9:00, I think it was.
Yeah.
But instead they changed it to just all day, 24/7.
Jeez.
If something bothers someone, if it's loud enough to disturb the quote unquote peace,
Yeah.
they can call, be like, hey, these kids are causing ruckus.
And
blah,
they can
blah, blah.
just be haters too.
yeah, true that. That's what we were thinking. I think it's just our neighbors being haters. They were like, man,
Nah, fuck these kids.
yeah, I don't know what these kids are doing. Like, it's just I'm hearing and just noise.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we luckily we found a different practice space, and once again, out in Edinburgh,
Yeah.
way out there, where no one can really hear us. So it's I guess you could say, yeah, that's what Bummer Shed and Sauce House really share is being out, like way out there, being able to be secluded away from other houses and disturbing other people.
And that tends to be another issue, I think, where like people are trying to find practice rooms and all that stuff, and it's kind of hard because I think I'm not sure. I can't remember who it was telling me that they need to practice in like those those rental spaces where you have storage, but then ever since like bigger companies started buying them, they basically banned bands from practicing in them.
Yeah. I remember.
Oh,
He always gets real mad when I try to move him. I remember when that first happened because that was pretty much like the thing where they would just rent out the storage rooms. And then, once I forgot the name of it, but once they got bought out, like all the local ones got bought out by this one corporate, they were like, nah, no more.
No more.
And pretty much, they put like a policy on it. And it was because of like, there would be some people where they would go there and practice strictly, but then there would be other bands where they like pretty much party there.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like it was like those people that really ruined it for the rest of us. The people that really wanted to just play music and do what they love for a living. So I don't know. It's a very hard thing to like really argue with, especially a corporation like that.
Oh, so, yeah, definitely. Yeah. They can just say like, no.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it. There's no.
You can't.
You can do nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because people have told me that the music scene here like is kind of hard, like in terms of getting gigs and practice and also compared to like other areas where it's like really supported. Like the Valley is not San Antonio, it's not Austin. That is like it's none of those places.
Exactly.
So like I kind of find it cool that at the same time, even though there's all these struggles, like you guys still keep going at it.
I mean, one of the like my idols, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Ian Mckay. He pretty much is like one of the like pioneers of like emo and post-hardcore. He played in Minor Threat and Fugazi and all that. There's this quote that he said. He's like, I'm probably butchering it or like ruining it, but pretty much he's like, if there isn't anything being done about something, just do it yourself.
Yeah.
And pretty much it was like saying like, because around that time, it was pretty much the same thing happening around in the DC area, like in the DC punk scene. He was just getting upset because there wasn't a lot of venues. So what they started doing is they started throwing their own shows and started throwing house shows.
Yeah.
And that's where like the whole DIY thing started, is because punk music wasn't very supported around in the early 80s. So a lot of businesses were like, we don't want these types of people around even closer, these hooligans. So these punks had to resort to doing a lot of the stuff themselves, and that's where a lot of that DIY aesthetic. And I feel like anytime a scene is lacking in something, it's both a good thing because it allows to push the innovators to really, innovate and come up with something new. I mean, look at Sauce House.
Definitely.
Plain and simple. Like they are now like the
place to go,
DIY venue. I always hear people, oh, what's going down on Sauce House this weekend? Or, oh, you see that flyer that's going down this weekend? And same thing with Bummer Shed. They're like, yo, did you see the vendor lineup for the Bummer Shed? And I'm like, dude, yes. Or like, it's like the fact that people are even just talking about the vendors. It's something super crazy. Cool. And it's like, it's all due to the lack of venues. Yeah. That we're able to find something, I guess you could say, a lot better. And it allows people to be creative and thrive off of just straight passion.
Yeah, because there's that saying where it's just limitations breed creativity.
Yes, exactly.
That's basically it, yeah. No, yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's cool seeing that, but like, I mean, I wish there was also more venues to support it because, I mean, I forgot who it was. Someone was telling me that, like, basically, like the handle bands and all stuff, like they get labels down here, they get all the support, but then like when it comes to the rock, indie, pop, punk, like all that stuff, you're basically on your own.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the bands down here in the Valley are really having a lot of trouble with, like the whole indie punk scene, I guess you could say. It's like there's no support, and it's due to like so many like Tejano, like norteño, like banda,
even
like
country too.
Stuff.
Like like that's what's really popping right here in this area.
I've been seeing a lot of that
there's been
stuff.
some like there's I don't know who it was, but like I heard like some story about some guy who was like in a rock band here in the Valley, and then he switched over to country, and they're making money.
Was it Chris Castro from Never Buried? And
that might be. I don't know. There might be different stories because
with the Slipknot tribute I'm in, the singer from that, he used to be in a band called Never Buried.
Yeah.
Never Buried went they just pretty much went on hiatus, and he found a new passion in country music, and man, he got signed and everything.
Yeah.
He lives up in Houston right now, and he plays shows. He plays pretty big shows, and it's pretty cool. Like, not gonna lie, it's kind of cool to see. But he even tells me all the time, he's like, man, if I knew it was this easy to really make it as a country musician, I would have done it way earlier. He's like, I would have never went into metal and all that. And I'm like, I was like, man,
what am I doing?
Tempting. Yeah, I'm like, it's kind of tempting. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, at the same time, it's like, I know at the end of the day, a lot of these bands that are playing shows like almost weekly down here in the valley, they're not really doing it for the money. I can truthfully say I'm not really doing it for the money. Neither are the guys none of us in Sycamore. We do it strictly for the love, and not only the love for us playing music, but the love for the scene. We're always just trying to get people to come out to the shows and get more and more people, because the thing is, the more people that come, that means, we can possibly make some money from this. And I mean, I've played shows where usually when we play a show, we never expect to get paid.
Yeah.
So like, if someone throws us like $20, oh my God, that's amazing. That's gas. I was like, that's gas.
One gallon of gas though.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, that's like 2 Whataburgers, two number ones real quick. And I mean, I'll take it.
It's something.
Yeah, exactly. It's something. It's always better than nothing. Obviously, at the end of the day, like every musician can say down here in the valley, their main goal is to be able to do this for a living.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I know it's kind
of unrealistic too.
Yeah, it's very unrealistic. I was actually talking to someone a while back. There's a lyric from a band called Graduating Life, and it's this song called Cold Raviolis. And it's there's this line. He says, he's like, I know exactly what I want, but I know it will never come true. And it's pretty much, I resonated with it a lot, is because like I see these kids that grew up very privileged, I guess you could say. Like I grew up very privileged too, I'm not gonna lie. But these kids don't really know what they want. Their parents put them through college, and they kind of just got like their basics and studied for whatever, and went with whatever major their parents like pushed them into, but they don't really know what they want to do with their life.
Yeah.
As for me, it's like, I know what I want to do. I really do. And I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into this. I've thought of so many times about giving up. And the thing is, I know what I want, but I know it will never come true.
How do you deal with that?
I mean, the best way I deal with it is just like taking the little things, making the little things matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we're doing this podcast is something that really makes me push forward. It makes me think, oh, wow, like I'm doing something positive.
No, you are definitely.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, even when I play a show, it's like I see these people dancing along to our songs, and I see people singing along to our songs. That's the greatest feeling a musician can have. I know whoever's listening to this, and if you play music and if you're in the scene down here in the valley, seeing people mosh to your song and seeing that energy, it's the
crazy.
best feeling. It's an amazing feeling. Or people being like, man, are you Orion from Sycamore?
Sycamore.
I've only got noticed in public once like that. Once. And that one time was all that I needed. And I barely got noticed this past week.
Oh,
so
wow.
That alone was something that really made me like, wow.
Yeah, you're doing something.
Yeah, maybe I am doing something. So it's a really cool feeling overall.
No, yeah, because there's the one guy who I always see in the scene. I'm not sure you know him, but like you probably seen him. It's a tall guy, brown hair, kind of like built. And his name's Joel. This guy's always dancing everywhere. He's always at Bummer Shed.
I've been seeing this guy around. I've been very curious. He's
like very big and everything. Yeah. He's always like talking to me like, "Hey, you're Jose, right?" I'm like, "Yes," because we always see each other. And like this guy always brings energy to the shows. Like anytime someone's dancing, he's like one of the first people up there.
Badass.
He was there
yeah.
when you guys were performing this past Saturday.
Yeah, I saw him.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this guy is really about it. I
Yeah.
love it. Like, I love every second of it. I pretty sure he was dancing literally
Yeah.
for every single band.
Because he was mainly there for the one who was doing like the D&D kind of type thing. Before it was you, the coacher, and then the band before them.
Saha Siha.
Yeah.
They were doing kind of like the name.
Yeah, something like that. Like,
yeah, I remember him dancing.
he was like one of the main characters up there. I'm like, oh damn, like this is interesting.
Yeah, dude, I always loved seeing that, and I didn't know that was his name. I just always saw him at every single show.
He's
like,
always there.
Always the like main person popping out in like crowd pictures. I'm like, man, I need to meet this guy.
Yeah.
I need to know who this guy is. I need to shake his hand or something.
Yeah, he's very
it's
social.
it's super cool to see stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is that he was talking to me, and the thing is, when I looked at his face, he looked so similar to somebody I knew. And I told him like where I was from. I'm from La Villa, whatever. And
Yeah.
it so happened that his dad used to be the football coach over there. And I knew his brother. I didn't know him, but I knew his brother. And he was kind of like him, but a little bit darker. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. And it's kind of strange because like his brother was like really like the jock type person.
Yeah.
And this guy seems more like happy, like kind of like a little bit like a hippie person.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, that's interesting how
like the very like opposite like
Yeah.
type thing. Yeah. I
Because-
mean, it's like how the valley's just really small. Like everyone knows everyone
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form.
and the more you talk with people, I mean, you realize it's a really small world.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of my favorite things ever is like meeting someone that already knows knows someone else you know. They're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, like
Yeah, I know that
I actually
person.
know this person. Yeah, it's a really cool feeling. I actually was talking with Max from the Culture.
Yeah.
At Mixlon, and he was like, oh, do you know like Jose Luis?
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, actually, I have an interview like scheduled with him. He's like, for real? And I was like, yeah. I was like, he hit me up, and I've been like, we scheduled everything, so I'm so super looking forward to it. He's like, yeah, man, you really got to check out his stuff. I was like, I've been
Yeah.
keeping tabs, like, don't worry. And he's like, yeah, man, and yeah, so it's really cool. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, to really see stuff like that type of stuff really
No, yeah,
happen.
it's really great. It's really crazy, and especially like for now, because I mean, I'm from a small town, so like everybody kind of knew each other. But the fact that I'm going to like this bigger cities and people recognize me because of the podcast, like when I was at that show on Saturday, some guy just walked up to me like, "Hey, I fuck with your podcast." I'm like, "Hey, cool."
Yeah, that's dude.
It's-
That's like
it's
the
exciting.
best thing ever. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's. Oh my god, that like
It's a great feeling.
yeah, it's a really great feeling. Like I said, it's like you're doing something.
Yeah, and it keeps me going because like sometimes, like I was saying earlier, like you have all these experiences, like when you're doing the shows, you get all this adrenaline, and then you're like the next day it's Monday, now you're back at work, and now you have to be like, oh yeah, in this area I'm really popular, but once you're back at work, like who the fuck are you?
Yeah,
Go back to work.
True that. I like to always like tell people like, at the end of the day, I'm just a weekend rocker.
Yeah,
Like I have this like alter ego, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
Like even my coworkers, I remember I had actually one of my old coworkers. He came to the show this past Saturday,
Of rules.
and so I worked with him for a couple months.
Mhm.
And later on in the night, he's like, "Man, Orion," he's like, "You're completely different outside of work." And I was like, "You want to know why?" And he's like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I hate my job. I hate
Yeah.
having to go to work when there's this going on. Like it's chasing that high, that adrenaline rush every single time." And he's like, "Oh." He's like, "I never saw it that way." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "It's just something really cool."
Yeah. No, and I agree. The same thing where like, I mean, I work at Home Depot. Obviously, I have some of the freaking bags and he's from right there.
there.
And he has the same thing where like I hate the work, but I mean you have to do it to pay the bills and all that shit. I mean
Exactly.
you have to. But then there's always this like in my mind, like, oh my god, this whole other world where everybody gets together, plays their songs, and everybody gets to enjoy that feeling of I don't know, like I guess like unity or something like that, where when you're in the scene, like everybody knows each other, you're all performing, the crowd gets to enjoy it and it's fun. But then going back to work is like that reality hits you. I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah, you're like, "Oh man."
Yeah.
Now life continues.
Yeah. But it is chasing a high.
Yeah. I even said it when I first really started going to shows in the scene. Growing up, I got bullied a lot, and I never really felt like I fit in. I struggled with a lot of like anxiety and depression, a lot of
Mhm.
mental illnesses. So, and my real safe haven, or like where I felt really safe and felt accepted, was I would listen to music and I would look at the backgrounds of these scenes and how this genre came to be or how this record was recorded. Like, I can truthfully tell you right now that Queens of the Stone Age, their third album, Songs for the Deaf,
Yeah.
I know where that was recorded, what collaborators worked on it. I know how they recorded it, what mics, what amps, like everything. And it was because I would have really bad panic attacks before going to school. I would be like throwing up every morning.
Oh, wow.
And the only thing that would calm me or like get my mind off of it is what I would do is I would put in my earphones, put on that album, and I would be reading online about just how they recorded it. And I guess you could say that's how I found a lot of my idols. Like Nick Radigan, the drummer from Surf Curse, he talks a lot, sings a lot about his anxiety. And he pretty much has the same anxiety that I have, the type of like anxiety disorder. So it made me feel like not alone. And so when I joined the scene, my first show was that show. I felt like I belonged for once.
Yeah.
I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel like people were looking at me like, what's up with this kid? Like, and then going to like punk shows down here in the valley, like the small amount of like strictly punk shows.
Yeah.
People you don't even know, you've never met, you're dripping sweat in the middle of the mosh pit, and all of a sudden they put their arm around you and you share that like that moment of like
bonding. Yeah.
Wow, these people are my family and I don't even know this guy's name. And I've always been obsessed with that.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've always tried to tell people, hey, come to a show. Come to a show, have fun, jump in the pit. You're not going to get hurt. We all take care of each other at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I've always told, like, even if it's like, I've always wanted to be able to be what Dave Grohl, Nick Radigan, what they were to me. I want to be able to do that for
someone else. Yeah.
The younger generations. That's like the main thing that I want to accomplish with my music. I don't care if I'm a living paycheck to paycheck. I don't care. As long as I'm able to play music for a living and I'm able to inspire people like myself or make people like myself feel not so alone at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's always been like that since when I really sat down and looked at myself and I was like, I remember being a senior, I was like, I want to play drums for a living. I want to be able to meet my idols. I want to be able to travel the world doing what I love with the people that I love. And ever since then, I've just been dead set on that. And I don't care how I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
I don't care if I got to work 50 plus hours a week. I don't care if I'm like, I don't know. If I'm able to do that, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So it's a really crazy feeling. But at the end of the day, I know it's hopefully one day I'll be able to fulfill that.
Yeah. And that's what I found really interesting, where I thought musicians like you guys would all be like popular, and then like a lot of people to be like, no, we get bullied a lot. I'm like, what? And I always get surprised because you would think, like, obviously like as a marching band, so like I understand like certain like music kids would get bullied because they're marching band or something. But like when it comes to like pop punk and all stuff, like I thought you guys would be more like, hey, just look at those badasses. And then,
I was actually in marching band too.
Oh, for reals?
I played the clarinet.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. One of the nerdiest ones out of there. But what do you call it? I really like the concert aspect of it. I didn't really like marching all that much. I feel like it was just I don't know, like too competitive, I guess you could say.
I love the competition, honestly.
Yeah, I love the competition too.
Yeah.
Like I'm natural with it, but I don't know. I just really like the concert, like the pieces that we would play, like in the auditoriums and stuff like that, and how beautiful it would sound. I really loved that. And I even tell people to this day, I was like, if I never discovered alternative music or started playing drums, I think I would end up, my main instrument would be the clarinet. I would want to be like a clarinet player for a living. Yeah. Because the clarinet's a lot of fun to play. But yeah, it is a very nerdy instrument.
No, yeah, it is. I'm surprised. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because when I started off, I was in bass drum. That was
yeah.
And then eventually, like, I did that for 2 years, and then I moved up to keyboard.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's really cool. So like a lot like auxiliary type stuff.
Auxiliary percussion, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. That's pretty much like what. Because I was always like, I feel like with marching, I always was very interested in drumline. Obviously being a drummer, and naturally being like, I like playing fast. I like playing loud. And I mean, drumline, the loudest motherfuckers out on the field. You can hear them from fucking
From far away, yeah.
the Memorial Day practice here. Like it's not that
Yeah.
far from here.
You'll
I
hear it over
them.
here.
I'll hear them in the morning. I'll wake up to it at like 7 in the morning. I'm like, man, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
Like I wish I was able to do that. Like it's something really cool.
Yeah, and that was really like for me because I'm from a model school, so we didn't have a lot of funding.
Yeah.
So the band director, he had to be in charge of all the different sections, which I mean sucks. You can't do that. So me and the drummers, like we would have our own practice room, and it was actually the ag room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we had the freedom because again, due to the limitations, we had the freedom to like we would make our own cadences.
Yeah,
And we
that's awesome.
And
Actually,
the competitive part was that we would go to the other schools, like anytime we had the football games,
Yeah.
we go to the other band and we're like, hey, get out the drum line and we'll challenge each other. So we had like
Yeah.
drum ops and all that stuff, and it was always fun. So I mean,
Yeah.
I love that competitive aspect, but then there's also the part where like you're together because you're both drummers, so like you guys understand you understand each other, but it can also be competitive. I don't know, like it,
yeah, no, I
Yeah,
get that
it's weird.
completely. Yeah, I like to always like mess around with people. Like,
Mhm.
oh, hey man, this show, who's gonna have more of a crowd? Who's gonna have the more hype crowd?
Yeah.
like, who's gonna be the band of the night, the set of
Yeah.
the night? And so like with Sycamore, we're always trying to top like our last set. Always trying to bring as much energy as possible, and always have the idea of like not trying to be better than other people, but making it a memorable experience, not just for
Definitely.
us, but for everyone. Like actually, Jazz from the Blow Up Dolls.
yeah,
I remember one of the first conversations I ever had with her. This is something that I freaked out when she told me this. She's like, one of my first shows, I saw Error, TV Flesh, and I think Urama. And
Yeah.
it was like one other band at Sauce House. It was one of the first Sauce
Damn.
House shows. And that night we covered a Mom Jean song with my old band Error. And that crowd, there was probably like tops like 50 people there.
Mhm.
And she told me, she's like, when y'all covered that song, that was probably, or that whole show in general, especially when y'all covered that song, that was probably one of the best shows I've ever been to. And that was my first experience at a show.
Oh,
and
wow.
she told me that probably like a month or two ago.
Mhm.
And I freaked out. I was like, wow, that is the first time anyone has ever told me that. No one has ever mentioned that night. And I look at videos of that night, from that night.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, man, I wish I could go back. Like, because it was just such a memorable experience.
Mhm.
And so when someone, especially like Jazz with the Blow Up Dolls and what they're doing,
Oh, yeah,
tells
it's
me that, I'm
crazy.
like, what the fuck? Like, holy shit. Like, it's such an amazing feeling.
Mhm.
Like, I got like such a boost of serotonin from that. I was like, man, maybe I am doing something. Like, just
No,
going back
you-
to what we were talking
yeah,
about earlier. Yeah.
So you guys are, you're doing great.
Thank
'Cause
you.
I mean, like again, like I barely came into the scenes. Like my first experience with you guys was with Sycamore was when you guys opened up for Michael Sayer.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about this a little bit before, like, with the Gremlin. We're like, man, like there's a couple of like, technical issues. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, like, you guys sounded great, but like I couldn't hear the voice.
Yeah.
And, like fuck, like I wonder what they're saying, but it was still good enough. But towards the end, I think you guys like fixed it. I'm not sure what was going on, but like those issues got fixed, and I'm like, okay, yeah,
yeah.
I want to see these guys again. And the crowd was loving you guys because like I think you had like supporters there or something, but there was like people there that were like there for you exactly for you guys there.
That's what we were really surprised about, because I mean, it was Michael Sayer.
Yeah.
Michael Sayer is really popular.
Mhm.
So we were supposed to play at like 7:00,
Mhm.
and we thought in our heads, we were like, is there really going to be a lot of people at 7:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday night?
Yeah,
Like, everyone's got work or they got church or something. And so as we were like setting up and like they started letting people in through the door, more and more people started coming, and we were all looking at each other like, holy shit,
there was a lot of people.
there's a lot of people here.
It's actually
And yeah, I was like, this is like the most I've ever seen the Gremlin packed.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is like, I was tripping out, like in my head, like, oh my God, I hope we don't sound bad.
Yeah.
And and then seeing, like, at first the crowd, they were listening to us, obviously technical issues. They were kind of like trying to get into it, but
Yeah,
they're like,
like,
what's
what's going
going on?
Yeah.
Like, they sound good, I think. And then like, I guess we got to like the middle of the set, started sounding a lot better. The crowd started feeling themselves. I guess people started getting alcohol in their systems.
That's
And
it.
we started sounding good all of a
Yeah.
sudden. And then by the end of the set, we like to end our sets really like a lot of energy, a lot of like end it with a bang.
Yeah.
So luckily the crowd was going crazy by the end of that. So it was a very good feeling, like to see that that crazy amount of people mosh to our songs.
Oh yeah,
So
it was fun.
it was a very cool feeling. So,
And there's actually a funny story, but like I went there with an acquaintance, and we were talking about, cause me and her were like, we didn't know who Michael Cera was. I just told her, hey, let's just check it out, because I mean, it seems cool. She's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So when we first got there was already a line from the stage all the way to like the front gate, whatever. And it was kind of disorganized. Like I don't mean to offend Tiger's Blood or anything like that, but like there's kind of like a miscommunication on what was going on, because some people didn't have wristbands or tickets. Some people did. So we weren't sure, like, was there two different lines for this or not? So we told some girls, like, hey, hold our spots for go check what's going on. And they're like, yeah, go on. Because I bought tickets too. And so we're like, okay, cool. So we go to the front. No one knows what's going on. Like, no one knows, like, hey, is this line for tickets and non-ticket holders, whatever?
Yeah.
And eventually some guy comes on, like, he tells everybody, hey, everybody, form one line and just get to the wall. And well, some of us had already skipped. So we went from the back of the line all the way to the front, and we just got in there. And we're like, man, well, we had tickets, so I don't know what's going on. And then the other people behind us were like, they were getting pissed off because they've been waiting there for who knows how long.
Yeah. I mean, I saw people, we got there around like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There was already people waiting there.
Yeah.
And I was tripping out. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, that's surprising. And I remember we would walk by. This is when I felt like, oh wow, I'm a rock star. We the whole band walked by through like the front of the door to go to the stage, and we heard like some people whispering like in the line. They're like, wait, is that Sycamore?
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, that's a drummer. I was like, what?
What?
I was like, hold up, what? I was like, and I remember going out to the guys. I was like, there's people whispering
about us,
about us. Like, that's so crazy. Like that, it's such a cool feeling, because we thought we were just gonna be openers. Like,
no.
We didn't. We thought everyone was coming for Michael Cera, but the good amount of people came for us.
No, yeah.
So it, like I said, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, because the person I went with, she was asking me like, do you know who they are? Because there's people like yelling for them, and because I was more into the scene compared to her, so she thought like I knew who you guys were. I'm like, I don't know who they are, but like people are obviously there for them. So I mean, hey.
I mean that's
because the majority of the line was like from elsewhere, because it was you guys, it was Wabi, I think, or
Waby.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it.
No, you're good.
Waby, and then it was of course Michael, but like so they weren't like, we weren't sure like if you guys were from here or not.
Oh, okay, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah,
so I'm like, I don't know where they're from, but then
because sorry, I keep interrupting you. Because I think before the Michael Cera show, we didn't play a show for like 2 months. I think the last show before that was in January, and it was like a little DIY spot. We played at Brandon Salinas' place.
Yeah.
He has like this like kind of like a storage unit, but not really. He calls it the lab. It's like the fantasy. He calls it like he wants to do something like the Fantasy Factory, supporting other creatives down here in the Valley. He's really helped us out a lot.
Yeah.
But we asked him about throwing a show there at the lab, actually like 5 minutes from here.
Oh, wow.
And we threw like a little DIY show, threw it together in about like 2 months with Dirty Motel. The flyer's actually right there. It was just us two, Dirty Motel and Sycamore.
Dang.
And we had like not that many people. It was like 100, 200 people, but still the crowd was hype. And I mean, like I said, it's like, it could be 50 people or even 10 people. And if they're moshing and they're giving that energy, I'm going to feed off that energy and give it right back.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, so we really tripped out when, like, because we didn't think we were really anyone. We still don't really think we're anyone, like, compared to other bands down here in the Valley. So seeing a lot of people cheer for us on Michael Cera, and people that weren't even our friends.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know who these people are.
They seemed like they were friends. So I'm like, hey.
Yeah, like run with it.
Guys,
yeah.
That made me think like, okay, these guys are going to be really good.
Yeah.
And then the first couple of songs.
Yeah, you're like, man, I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm like, man, like, people are saying, they keep screaming Sycamore. I'm like, oh shit, like they're going to be badass. And then like the first couple of songs, I'm like, yeah, and like this is their plans.
Yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day.
No, but you guys are actually good. Like it was just, I mean, technical issues happen all the time. I mean, that's something you can avoid.
Yeah, of course.
And then I saw you guys again on Saturday, and you guys did really well.
Thank you.
I couldn't stay for the full thing because I worked the following day.
Oh no, you're good.
But I mean,
yeah, that show we just recently played this past Saturday, Armadillo, he got COVID.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, so we hadn't talked. We couldn't meet for like 2 weeks.
Nice.
Thank God we were
Yeah.
able to meet and like come in contact with him. And I remember coming up to the week of the show, like last week, I was like, all right, guys, what are we gonna do? Like, when are we gonna practice? At least run through the set once.
Mhm.
And then Armadillo hits us with, I got COVID.
Oh, no.
And I was like, what? I was like, and this was, we had found out the news of the Blow Up Dolls dropping, so it was just I think it was only 2 bands at that moment, or no, 3 bands.
Yeah.
So it was like the Blow Up Dolls were dropping out. It was just gonna be 2 bands, and they weren't. I tried to find a backup band, but I couldn't find anyone.
Mhm.
And then if we dropped 2, that would have been like
One band.
It would have been a
Oh.
bad like situation for the people throwing the show. So we felt really bad. So I was like, all right, guys, this is what I say we do. I was like, we play a one-off set. We learn covers and just play covers instead.
Yeah.
And the guys are like, okay, but we got to pick the covers. I was like, obviously. So we luckily it was only 2 songs that we like had to learn, but we learned those songs in like 2 days. Like, but we opened up the set with Black Sheep.
Yeah.
We learned it that day. We had that first like a good run through that day at like 2:00 in the afternoon.
Damn.
And so we were already very nervous about it. And then added to that, like, I mean, all the guys can say it. If we're missing one of us, we're kind of all out of our element. We, like I said, Sycamore, it's like, you know, fuck bro culture and all that. But like, Sycamore is a family. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, these guys are my brothers. These guys have been there for me more than my own family has at times. And I could truthfully say that I'll do the same for them. Like,
Yeah.
I'll die for these guys. And they're my brothers. So anytime one of us is missing, I feel like out of my element. Like, especially if we're performing. That was the
Oh,
first
yeah,
time we
that's
ever
the thing.
performed with missing one of us.
And what instrument did he play? Or
He's our singer.
Okay.
So we have 2 singers. Armadillo sings more of like the love ballads, the poppy stuff, and then Jan does the more punky, harder stuff that we do. And on top of that, Armadillo does a lot of the lead guitar. Switches back and forth, lead to rhythm to whatnot. So losing that guitar and that voice and that guitar was a very weird, like, it just sounded off to me.
Yeah.
Like, the whole time I was playing, I was like, man, there's something missing. I was like, in my head, I'm like, man, there's something missing. I need it. I like it. Like, I fell out of my element, you know?
yeah,
So, but luckily like I said,
people loved it.
Crap,
And that's what, like,
people
that's what
loved
I'm saying. Like, that's what I always notice. Like, when you're a performer, you notice these things missing, but like when you're in the audience, you don't notice it.
exactly.
Yeah.
I tend to be a perfectionist, and I tend to like not give like the band credit. Like, people, no matter what people will say, they can say I'm good or the band's good or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna believe it
Oh yeah.
unless I'm like, I think the set's perfect. But I had a talk with my dad a while back, and he's like, you know, when you're playing your original songs, as long like at the end of the day, no one really knows those songs better than you do. You're the
Yeah.
one that wrote it. And so if you mess up, obviously if it's something slight or you miss like a little extra beat or a hit or a wrong note,
Yeah.
no one will really notice it unless it's super obvious.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to let go of. And at the same time, just make sure you're having fun. As long as you're having fun, the crowd will love it, and they'll give that energy, and you guys will just be swapping it back and forth. And that's what I've always like remembered, like, to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, and I agree with that because there's musicians I've seen here in the Valley. I'm not gonna name them, but just like in general, where they're really talented musicians, but they don't put on like any kind of stage like persona, like anything extra. Like, they don't put on a show. They're just musicians, and you guys are performers. Where yes, you do play your music, but you also have like this added side where like you bring up the energy, and so as long as you have that, like, it really, the crowd will love it regardless. I mean, you can have like a couple of mess ups, whatever, but compared to a musician who just doesn't do that, like they play your music perfectly, but like no energy to it. I mean, it's kind of
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like, if I want, because at the same time though, like, the reason why these people don't move or like they're not like the performers per se is like they're more focused on playing the music, trying to play it properly and right. Which, don't get me wrong, that's it's perfect.
Yeah, it's
Like
great.
that's what makes you a musician.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, because I, to be honest, like I'm not trying to put on a performance. I just get really into it, and I just kind of turn into a different person. Like one of my friends, he tagged me in a post, and he was like, "Can gorillas play drums?" And then he tagged
Oh
me,
my
and he's
God.
like, "This is Orion." I was like, that is me. I guess you could say that. And it's mainly because I just get really into the music. And
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's like feeding off the energy. I know for sure, like Michael Sayer, that was probably the least energy I've ever had. And it was because I was in my head like, man, I know we sound bad. I'm looking at the crowd and the crowd's like confused. But then we got to the end of the set and the crowd starts moving and getting into it. And that's when I started like opening up more and started playing like how I like
How you
getting,
usually play,
getting
yeah.
into my flow state per se. So I mean, it just depends. I know I've an old drum mentor of mine. He teaches a lot of like drum line down here in the valley. He's actually helping with UTRGV and their drum line.
Oh.
But he used to play with like a lot of bands, and he's been to a lot of shows. And he tells me there was this show on Halloween night down here in the valley on, I think it was like 2001. It was Deftones and Incubus.
Oh, wow.
Deftones, they was like co-headlining tour, but Deftones was like the last band to play. And he recalls like that night, like Incubus came up, they played the set, played the songs perfectly, sounded just like the album, but everyone loved it, but they weren't really moving around all that much. They were kind of focusing on the performance. And then Deftones comes out, chinos hanging from the rafters, nasty, sweaty.
Yeah.
They're playing wrong notes. Their guitars are out of tune, but the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty cool because I think there's footage from that night because towards the end of the night, the crowd stormed the stage.
Oh, shit.
And they got footage of it, and they put it in, I think, the music video to Changing the House of Flies. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But there's footage of it. If you search it up online, you can find it. But the crowd rushed the stage. And all the older like people that like I've met, and they talked about like, I'll ask them like what their favorite show they've ever been to, and they're like, they named that night.
That one.
Like more than like 20 people I've talked to. They're like, seeing Deftones that night was probably one of the best like shows I've ever seen. And it was because they were performers.
Yeah.
They played their hearts out. They were playing a lot of wrong notes, but they were putting out energy. The crowd was feeding off the energy.
Bring it right back.
Bringing it right back. And then boom. And it was just a chain reaction. And so I feel like that's what I like to always try and do. If I fuck up, hey, laugh it off, have a bright ass smile, and make sure you're having fun at the end of the day, because that's what it is.
Yeah, and even as a musician, you should be doing that regardless. I mean, they taught us in that marching band where if you fuck up, don't show that you fucked up. Just keep going at it because the audience won't know. So just don't make it obvious that you messed up.
It's like playing with confidence. It's like in jazz, the joke where it's like there's no wrong notes in jazz. You could just play whatever, and if you play it confidently, people will be like following every lick, every groove that you're playing. And ever since I heard that, like that little joke, I'm like, man, I'm gonna start doing that. Like, and I've messed up pretty bad on a good amount of times.
Which has been like one of like your worst like mess ups or whatever.
We were playing up in Dallas. I was playing with Isaiah Flowers. We were opening up for Victor Internet, and the band before us, they played a fantastic set. And with Isaiah Flowers, he runs a backing track because I mean it's a rapper. He needs like a lot of extra stuff. So it was there was me on drums, Jan from Sycamore playing guitar. Then Jolito, Isaiah's producer, playing bass and switching to guitar for some songs.
Yeah.
And then Isaiah doing his thing, performing. So we had a backing track, and the backing track messed up.
Oh, no.
Mid-set. And I guess it went out of sync, the click. So we were playing, and I'm just following the click. All of a sudden, we're in the wrong part of the song.
Oh,
and I'm seeing the crowd like, what is going on? Like they go from like jumping around and grooving to like
Like, once he stopped.
what is happening right now? And I'm sitting there in my head, I'm like, oh no. And it got to the point where I stopped playing and I stopped we had to stop the whole song.
Yeah.
And we stopped the whole song and we luckily we just thought about it. We're like, you know what? We don't need the backing tracks. We'll just play bass, guitar, drums. Isaiah's doing his thing.
Yeah.
Like just straight up raw. And we ended up playing still a pretty good set. That set was probably one of the most disastrous sets because they were backlining the drum set too. And
Oh no.
I'm a heavy hitter.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone has ever heard me play or seen me play live, you know how loud I play, and I know I shouldn't be doing it, but I just get into the music. So what I have a tendency to do is every once in a while I'll put a hole in the drum head.
Yeah.
I put a hole in the drummer's bass drum and broke his bass drum head. And we had to stop the show, and I was shirtless, and I don't play with my shoes.
Yeah.
So I had to run across downtown Denton, like when everyone's out on like a Saturday night, run to our van and grab my bass drum in the van and run down downtown Denton shirtless, barefoot, with the bass drum over my head. And everyone's looking at me like, what's up with this kid?
Yeah.
I'm like a tiny dude. So like people were just looking at me like I was a crackhead or something, stealing something.
Stealing from the music stores.
And so it was just really bad. But overall, we ended up saying fuck it. We ended the set off with a pretty like strong note, luckily. And so the crowd, like I said, we fed off the crowd by the end of the night, and we recovered from it.
But, and it makes for a good story too. I mean, you live for those experiences.
This is probably like only the second time that I tell that story because I'm pretty embarrassed about it. But it was a pretty interesting experience, I guess you could say, and it was a very I guess you could say a learning experience.
Oh yeah.
Always having a backup because they thought they didn't have a backup bass drum, and even the sound guy was like, I was fully prepared to bring out a suitcase for you to just play on a suitcase for a bass drum, and I was like, no, bro, I got you. I brought my drum set just in case.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
And I mean that happens because that also happened to me when I was in marching band where the band director told me to replace one of the concert snare drums. And the thing is, I wasn't aware of how to properly paste it on.
Yeah.
And well, for people who don't know about drums, on the bottom of drums, there's a plastic cover. I don't know how to call it.
The reso head.
Yeah. And so when I placed the drum on top of the stand, I did it incorrectly. So all that happened was a spa.
Oh,
it's like a giant, it sounded like a gunshot. And since no one was in the band hall at that time because everybody was outside practicing, no one
heard it.
No one heard it.
What happened?
And as soon as that happened, the door opened and there was a band director. And to me, what happened? I'm like, I messed up the drum. He's like, oh no.
And drum heads are not cheap. That's another thing too. I always tell people when people are like, hey man, how do I get into drumming? Or I want to become a drummer. I was like, no, you don't. I was like, at first I'm like, no, you don't. I was like, it's super expensive. Drummers are rare. If someone finds out you're a drummer, guess what? You're now playing in 7 different projects at once.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that's how I've always been. That's why I'm the only reason why I get hit up by people and why I've been involved in what I've been involved in is because there's not many drummers, especially down here in the valley.
Yeah, I hear about the drummers and bassists.
Yeah, bassists especially too. It's always very funny to hear about it, or seeing all the memes.
Yeah.
I remember seeing one on TikTok. It's your band is about to break up, but the drummer is just focusing on his set. Your drummer realizes he has 7 other projects to worry about, and this is one less thing.
Yeah.
And you just hear arguing about random music things, and he's just there on his phone, all happy, scrolling through something. And I always related that to that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
No, yeah, man, it's true. You guys, there's no unemployed drummers or bassists because they're always being searched for, especially the good ones.
Yeah. Seriously though, I know all the good drummers down here in the valley, they're kind of all taken. They're already involved in their projects. And then I feel it. And like I said, going back to it, I was like, that's why I usually get hit up is because I'm one of the only drummers that keeps my availability open, I guess you could say, because
Yeah.
not a lot of people ask me. So I'm kind of like the last option people have, the
man.
second choice. But I mean, it's still fine. I'm still fine with that.
Yeah. No, you're not. Not fine.
Nah.
Yeah. No, but I was saying like it's kind of interesting though because usually people don't want to be drummers or bassists because they don't get that much attention compared to like the other members, like the lead singer, lead guitarist, but they're always the one in demand.
Seriously though, I feel like everyone wants to learn guitar because the guitarist or the sing because the guitarists and singers are always the ones that are like known. But really, I feel like the drummers and the bassists are like the leaders of the band. I guess you could say like you can be decent at the guitar and be able to start a band or really have a really good band. But if you don't have a good bassist and drummer, or like you don't have a strong rhythm section, that the band will sound completely different. I know, like one of my biggest person I look up to, like I strive to be like him, is Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
They talk about it with Nirvana. When Dave Grohl joined Nirvana, he was playing almost all the same drum beats their old drummers would play, but everyone talks about the energy he brought was on another level, and that's what made Nirvana.
Yeah.
And ever since I heard about that, that's pretty much what I wanted to try and do, is like bring a different type of energy, because the thing is, that's what the drummer sets the tone. They set the tempo. They're the real leaders of the band. If you have a drummer that's not feeling the music or is kind of bored of the music and they're just kind of sitting there,
you'll start focusing on that.
The crowd won't feel it, as compared to drummers like Sugarfoot, Michael Jackson's drummer. That guy is known for, he's playing just basic, like basic 1, 2, 3, 4 beats. A lot of drummers find that like boring, but there's a reason why this guy is Sugarfoot.
Yeah.
He puts on a performance. He brings that a whole nother like energy to it. It's the same thing with Dave Grohl. He makes a lot of like complex drum beats, but a lot of his more known stuff is all from Nirvana, but a lot of the Nirvana stuff is just a lot of energy.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it, is just energy.
Definitely.
And that's pretty much what I like to say, that what I bring to a band is bringing that new energy, that passion, the vibes.
And it shows up because, I mean, Dave Grohl is basically like one of the most famous drummers. Like in terms of like who you talk about ever, like he's always like one of the first names brought up.
Yeah, he's one of the greats. At the end of the day, it's like Dave Grohl, John Bonham, Neil Peart, Joey Jordison. And Joey Jordison's another drummer I look up to. I mean, I have his signature snare. I got a Slipknot tattoo.
Nice.
Slipknot's one of my favorite bands of all time. So like Joey Jordison's another person that brings like whole different energy. Like that guy's Joey Jordison, Dave Grohl, they're freaks. They're the best way to put it. They're freaks. The fact that Dave Grohl went from, he's like, oh, I'm a drummer, blah, blah, blah. I'm really good. And then he's like, I'm bored. I'm going to start Foo Fighters. And then went and started singing and playing guitar in Foo Fighters and making great songs. And then he's like, I'm bored of Foo Fighters. And then he went and played with Queens of the Stone Age, Tenacious D, the list goes on. Like this guy has been involved in so many different projects, not only just playing drums, but guitar, bass, singing, like
everything.
He just keeps himself busy. He's a workhorse, and he does it not for the money, but for the love of music and wanting to create something new and innovative. And that's why I look up to Dave Grohl so much, is because, the guy does it for the love, and he's a freak.
Yeah. Did you ever see the movie or no? The Studio 666? I never got to see it.
I actually did see it.
Was it good or no?
As a very big Dave Grohl fan, it was good.
It was good.
But, it's not a rewatchable. It's not a movie that you could rewatch more than once. But, it's a pretty funny movie.
Because, I'm always, I love cheesy horror films.
The best way to put it.
Yeah, because I love that stuff. The big one being Leprechaun. That's like a good series. Leprechaun and Killer Clowns of Outer Space. All that stuff. I love it. So I'm like,
I grew up on Killer Clowns from Outer Space. My parents would show it to me all the time. I grew up on a lot of horror movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff's great. So I was wondering, man, I wonder if that movie was good or not, because I didn't get to see it in theaters. So I'm like, man, I wonder if anybody saw that movie and what their
Yeah.
opinions was on it.
See, I saw it. I'm a pirate.
Yeah.
So I saw it here in my house with my family.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty good movie.
It was pretty
like,
good.
Not gonna lie, but not a rewatchable movie
Oh,
if I do
man.
say so.
I guess I'll give it a watch then.
Yeah, I was about to say, still watch
Still worth
it.
one watch.
It's still worth the watch, and it's very funny and very interesting.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just weird to see these musicians acting.
Yeah.
it's especially like people like someone like Pat Smear. He played in the Germs, Nirvana. He's a really old dude. Seeing him acting is one of the funniest things ever because I know this guy can't read that well.
Oh no.
So like overall, like it's just a really funny like thing to watch. But yeah.
And going off on that other stuff about you inspiring other musicians, what kind of advice would you want to leave like the next generation of musicians? Like, what would you want to tell them? Like in terms of advice, whether it be just your technique, but also like just life advice. Like, what would you want to tell them?
There's gonna be a lot of times where you feel like you're going nowhere, where you feel like you're doing absolutely nothing, and you feel like you're not accomplishing anything. I've probably had those ruts about 4 times already, and I've only been playing like music seriously for about 5 years.
Yeah.
I actually just got out of one, a really big one. I almost quit music. I've almost quit Sycamore like 3 different times. But the thought of like, I don't know, the playing the music aspect and being able to escape from it made me keep pushing. And so the best way I could put it, like what I'm trying to say is, you're doing something. You really are. You're doing a lot more than you think you're doing. I can't say it enough. I've talked to younger musicians or younger drummers down here in the scene, and these guys, like, sometimes people don't give themselves enough credit. And I always tell them like, hey, you're better than you think. You really are. And never compare yourself to others. You're your own person at the end of the day. This is what I tend to have trouble with still to this day.
Yeah.
Is like I'm striving to be like Dave Grohl, but the thing is Dave Grohl's a freak of nature.
What does that make you? What are you? What is Orion?
I don't know. A gorilla, a baby gorilla.
A gorilla who plays drums.
Yeah, I like to bang on things and make loud noises, I guess you could say. But overall, just always strive to be better. Always try and figure out a way. Hey, am I growing? Do I think I got better than I was yesterday? Even if it's picking up, not even just drums. Pick up. This is the best advice actually I've gotten. Pick up your instrument. Play it. Play whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just play it. You could be just straight up noise. It could be randomness. You could be just banging on it. Anything. Even if it's just for 5 minutes or even 30 seconds a day. It's better than not doing it at all. Better than just looking at it up on the wall up there and like, oh man, I could have played today. I had about 10 minutes before you got here. I could have played it.
Yeah.
But obviously there's times where it is very hard to pick up an instrument, but it's that little push that you have to give yourself sometimes. And once you overcome that push, you really like, it gives you a lot of power. I feel like, I guess you could say, is like having that awareness that, hey, as much as I don't want to do this,
you got to do it. Yeah.
You got to. You just have to. Especially if you want to be able to do what you love for a living.
Yeah, definitely.
You just have to make sacrifices here and there. And that's probably the best way, like, best advice I've ever gotten.
And that's good advice because I was talking to a friend recently where you were talking about that plateau. And in his case, it was a skills plateau where basically like when you're learning an instrument, like at first, or learning anything actually, there's like a quick turn up because you're barely learning. So you get that excitement. And then eventually you kind of go down a little bit and then you hit like a plateau where you feel like you're not progressing, but like you got to push towards that and you'll start going up again. And
you can say this, you can apply that same thing to about really anything. It's
Yeah,
like
it's a skills plateau, yeah.
it's like a honeymoon phase for something.
Yeah.
I was reading about this thing, and I ran into this TED talk, and it talks about like with relationships and why relationships fail
Yeah.
is because of this thing called new relationship energy. This therapist, she talks about when you first like become boyfriend and girlfriend with someone, you get this dose of serotonin that's equal. It's the same amount as taking a hit of meth.
Oh wow.
And it's like you're on drugs.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. It's crazy.
Because I was thinking like might as well get into a relationship and then once it starts going down,
yeah,
get some meth in there.
Yeah, just smoke some meth real quick, like that black tar heroin, like real quick. But
go for it.
I've told this to a good amount of people too. No one's ever said that. They're like, I'm just gonna pick up drugs, what? No worries. But so it's equal to the amount of smoking meth.
Yeah.
And the thing is that new relationship energy tends to wear off. It's somewhere from 6 months to 2 years even.
Mm-hmm.
And when that wears off, you're like, well, actually, I don't like this person as much as I do. I don't feel the same way. And they're like, they end up hurting the other person in that sense. And it's because of them not sitting down and thinking to themselves, hey, maybe it's because like the honeymoon phase wore off.
Yeah.
Maybe and so like a lot of people, like a lot of relationships and couples, they tend to venture out and try some new things to add spice, quote unquote. But if the real love is there and it's going to be something in the end, push yourself.
Yeah, it's the whole thing, puppy love versus committed love.
Exactly.
Where that puppy love is that honeymoon phase. Yeah, and then after that it becomes a different type of love where like now you're committed to each other.
Exactly. And I can definitely say I have a committed love to music. I am married to my drum set. I mean, there's a reason why I have a Slipknot tattoo. There's a reason why I have a Green Day tattoo. All
this other stuff around here.
Yeah, I mean, I got flyers. I got shirts. There's a reason why I know so much about not just about the music and how it was made, but how it came to be, who recorded it, what collaborators, like and stuff like that. It's because
you have a clear passion for it. Yeah,
exactly. And I just want to be able to inspire others to do the same, just like these older people, the older generations did the same for me.
Yeah.
And because the thing is, when I first got into the scene, there was only, 1 to 2 people really that were like, everyone's like a Mowdy.
Yeah.
He was one of the main people that really like was getting me shows or like getting my old band shows and talking to me and making me feel welcome.
Yeah.
So I really looked up to him. He was like kind of like that big brother. He was because of a Mowdy, we built a connection with Tiger's Blood so early
that makes
on.
Sense. Yeah.
And that's how Tiger's Blood found out about us, is a Mowdy told Patrick about us.
Yeah.
And I didn't even ask a Mowdy to do that. He just did it out of kindness. And to this day, sometimes I'll text him out here like, hey man, I miss you, man.
Yeah.
Like, I miss you, man. Thank you. Because it's like, he didn't have to do that. Yeah. But the fact that he did that really warms my heart, and it means the world to me. Another person too is Caesar. He plays in Worst Behavior. Riley. That guy has been around in the scene for a really long time. Oh. But every once in a while, this guy, he'll repost something or comment on something, and he'll just like a slight compliment that really honestly, like, he didn't have to do it, but the fact that he's doing it, and he's very well known in the scene, and he's doing what he loves for a living, that means the world to me. Yeah. I mean, Ruben Farias, he tweeted about me and it was like, Orion Reigns from Sycamore is an absolute monster on the kit. That made me cry. Like, that brought tears to my eyes. I haven't told anyone this. Yeah. But him doing that, saying that, really meant a lot to me, because I try, like I really do try. Like I said, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this with no expectations of getting anything in return. It's just purely for the love.
And it's the best kind of mindset to have, honestly.
Yeah.
You see, you want something in return and you don't get it, it makes it even worse.
it's letting go of the outcome,
Yeah.
and pretty much you're putting out love so that you can receive it in return.
Mm.
And if you don't get that love back, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, you feel good for putting out that love and making someone else feel good. And I've just barely only realized that maybe like 2 months ago.
Damn.
So like I said, I've been in a very different mindset, and I've been, I guess you could say, I changed a lot since then.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to, I don't know, push more forward with my music and what we're doing with Sycamore. And not only that, but also trying to push for more bands to start up, more drummers to start popping out on the scene. Because we need more drummers.
Mhm. Big
If
time.
you're thinking about playing drums, do it. Do it. Please.
After you were saying not to do it.
Shh. You didn't hear that. Cut that out. That doesn't exist. I never said that.
But now yeah, it makes sense. Like there is a need for drummers and just everything in general. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Just overall, it's a really fun experience.
Mhm.
I can truthfully. Okay, so I'm probably not supposed to say this because we're trying to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
For us hitting 1,000, we just recently hit 1,000 followers this past Saturday, Sycamore. I'm going to be getting Sycamore tatted on me,
Trills.
on my stomach, across right here.
Damn, that's commitment right there.
And I sat down and really reflected on myself. This is going to be on me forever until the day I die. It's in a sense of manifesting, hey, Sycamore is going to take off somewhere.
Mhm.
And that's how much I believe in us. And added to that, I know when I'm older, if Sycamore never made it and I'm just like an old man and my kids see my stomach and like I'm like 60, 70 years old. And they're like, Grandpa, what's Sycamore? And I'm like, all right, kids, gather around.
Here's the story.
Your grandpa used to be a punk rocker, you see, and I just thought I was gonna go somewhere with it, so I got it tattooed on me. But overall, I know I'm gonna look at the tattoo in the mirror, or even when I look down, see it in any pictures. I know I'm gonna think of this time in my life where I can truthfully say my time in Sycamore has been the most fun and the most fulfilling ever in my life.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets. I will never regret it to this day. I know I'll look at the tattoo and be like, man,
Yeah.
that was fucking badass. What I was doing was really amazing. And I don't know. Plus, I mean, it's going to look cool.
Oh, yeah.
Just trust me.
I
It's
want
gonna
to
look
see it for sure
amazing.
later on.
We're planning on getting it this Wednesday, so
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. So I'm already kind of nervous because I heard stomach tats are very painful.
Ooh.
And so, yeah, and we're going to be doing pretty much releasing a little teaser about it. So keep an eye out for that.
It's okay because the episode takes usually a week from recording to release. So, I mean, you guys will be good by then.
Yeah, I'm not sure because, what do you call it? Because we're doing it 2 sessions.
Oh, okay.
So pretty much he's going to do the line work first. I think we might post it with just the line work.
Yeah.
But if not, pretty much he's gonna be doing the line work the first session, and then we have to wait like 2 to 3 weeks for it to heal, and then he's gonna go back and do the shading.
Oh, man. It's gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be amazing. I'm nervous. I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Like there's so many emotions. There's people telling me, there's people telling me that when they get into your rib cage, that it feels like you can't breathe.
Oh no.
And I'm like, what? So I was like, I don't know about this, guys. And then added to that, he did all my whole right arm. Eloy, shout out to him. He even told me, he was like, bro, the stomach pain is a different type of pain. He's like, I'm telling you now. He's like, you think you can take it, but I can't take it. And this guy is covered in, he has like his sideburns, his neck tatted, everything. He's like, that's probably one of the worst. And and added to that, he was like, and then another thing too is like, you don't got fat. It's just bones.
Just bones.
So he's like, so it's gonna be right on your bones, bro. So it's gonna hurt even more. He's like,
Oh, man.
and I was like, it'll be worth it at the end of the day. Just a fuck it moment, I guess you could say. So, and hopefully people will be like, wow, these guys really are about it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the whole like statement we're trying to say is like, hey, Sycamore till the day I fucking die.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always going to live by. I've said it already so many times, and I'm really going to do it.
That's really good show right there. That tattoo.
Yeah, that's what I've always said.
Mm.
I've said it a handful of times, but I really want to make a mark.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So usually the last question I ask my viewers or my guests, what was your favorite part of the podcast?
Let's see. I think, to be honest, I don't really have a favorite part. The whole this is like the first time I've ever done something by myself.
Yeah.
This is only my second like
Interview,
podcast or
podcast.
interview, whatever you can call it, like where someone's asking me about myself. No one really ever does that with me. I never really thought I was like a figure or an influencer in the sense. So it makes, like I said, it's the little things that matter. And it's stuff like this that makes me want to keep going.
No, you definitely should. I mean, you guys are doing great.
Yeah,
keep going at it.
And it just gives me a lot of hope. Pretty much at the end of the day, this whole situation, this whole experience has been amazing. And I thank you like for reaching out. Of course, like even later on down the line, if you want Sycamore, like to interview us as a whole, because these guys all have crazy stories, and us together are a completely different set of people. I think it would be a lot of fun.
Sure. I mean, if they're always like if they're open to the idea, sure.
Okay. Yeah. I think all the guys were, because I already told them about like leading up to it, and they're like, "What about Sycamore?" And I was like, I don't know. I can talk to him about it. And they're like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, okay, let me figure something out. And so, so pretty much look out for that. Yeah, I got you. We'll talk more about that.
Sure.
So, but yeah, just the whole experience. It's a fucking badass experience.
Yeah.
And I really love everything you're doing. This is what we need.
Yeah.
Someone shining a light on the scene, on the figures. Like, yes, the music's good. Yes, the performances are good, but I love seeing the personalities.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
It's seeing these people not in their element, I guess you could say, not in their natural setting.
Yeah, it's different.
Forcing them to talk when they're very socially awkward people. Because I know,
especially because none of this is scripted. Like whatever happens. That's what I always tell people. Because they always ask me, like, "Do you have a script? Do you have like a list of questions?" I'm like, "No. Yeah. Whatever happens, that's a conversation."
That's the best kind. It's just going with the flow at the end of the day, never really having a plan. And I mean, those are usually the best experiences, the best times that you could have. Yeah. So, yeah.
So thank you guys for watching, and hope you enjoyed this episode. It'll usually take a week, so who knows what's gonna happen with the tattoos. Maybe by the time it's up, you'll start seeing that stuff.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see.
All right, thank you.